Hi, it's Brian Berg with BB Direct, and today we're going to talk about when it makes sense to consider mailing to a subscriber database. You want to learn more about subscribership files? Stay tuned. The success or failure of your direct mail campaign is largely reliant on the mailing list that you choose to mail to. So today we're going to talk about when it makes sense to consider mailing to active subscribers to a publication. So I've got two examples here. One is the New Yorker magazine, another is Rolling Stones magazine, both of which have a fairly small universe, the number of records that we have to mail to. The New Yorker magazine has 635,000 active subscribers, and you can get those for $115 per thousand. And the Rolling Stones has 308,000 active subscribers nationwide, and you can also get that for $115 per thousand. This $115 a thousand is a base price. The cost to rent this list is actually going to be more. There's a charge for geography, there's a charge to deliver the fee to us, and here in this case the email or FTP site, they hit us with $75. Any selects, if you wanted the 3-month active subscribers, that's the individuals that have signed up in the last 3 months, or 61,000 of those, that's an additional $10 or $15 per thousand. So there's a lot of different layers of add-on selects that can increase the cost quite a bit. So they both have a minimum of 7,500 records that you can rent. So that's a little snapshot of two examples of a subscriber database. How do we use it? Well, consider first the universe. Quite a bit smaller than the total nationwide population that you can mail to. If you take this 635,000 and you divide that by the zip codes and so forth, if you're only wanting to mail into a really small area around the city, you're going to have a small quantity. Now, in New York City, say the 5 boroughs, you'd probably have enough records of magazine subscribers, probably plenty enough to mail to. And then you can delve into, well, let's select maybe age or income or marital status or gender and narrow down your target audience. But for other metros, the numbers decrease rapidly. So if you're looking for the Tampa Bay area, all the subscribers to the New Yorker magazine, you're going to have quite a bit less records to mail to. So you got to make sure that the geography that you're wanting to mail is large enough to support this minimum threshold of 3,500 records as a minimum order. Higher rental price, we talked about that. When you order this list, you're going to be renting it, not buying it. You're going to be renting it and for a one-time mailing only. So this is a fairly steep price, but this is the conditions that the publisher, the owner of this list, is willing to release this data for you. Slower delivery. It does take a little bit longer. On a compiled list, BB Direct can deliver a mailing list in 30 minutes, maybe an hour or so typically. But for something like this, where we need a sample mail piece approval, there's a publisher that's the owner, the contact person at the publisher location has to agree to certain conditions of this mailing. It just takes a while. It could take 2, 3, maybe even 5 days to actually get access to the list that you're looking to mail to. The sample mail piece I just mentioned, you typically have to provide the sample mail piece you're going to mail to, and then the owner will then look it over and make sure that they're comfortable with the particular company that's mailing. If it's not a competitor, they want to make sure that the content is appropriate for mailing to this audience. You got to satisfy any conditions that they require to get access to this data. A usage report. If you ask, you could get a usage report for this particular file. So for the New Yorker magazine, we could ask for a usage report, and it would show us who's used it, who's mailed to it. And it would also give us either a T or a C, a test or continuation. It'll tell us this particular mailer mailed this particular audience one time because they tested it. If they've mailed it twice or 3 times because they've had success with it, they'll have a little C next to it, a continuation. That's a good sign. It's a good sign that that particular mailer tested this list, felt the response was strong enough to test it again or mail to it a second time or third time. So it's a little snapshot into who's using this list and how effective that list has been for that particular campaign. You know, we're only supposed to mail it one time. We know how often, or the publisher will know how often it's mailed because they seed the list. So if you rent this list for a one-time use, make sure that you're only using it for one time. You're contractually bound to only using it for the number of times you paid for and agreed to. So they seed the list with a fake name. You wouldn't know which one it is, but when that particular fake name comes through mailed one time, we know that it's been used. They have the sample mail piece, and so they just measure how often that individual mail piece comes into and is mailed. And the naming convention of the seed, typically they can track it that way as well. So your particular campaign will have a particular naming convention, the Brian Berg, maybe not Brian Berg, maybe Brian Berger or something like that. So when do we use a subscriber file? Well, there's three conditions that I find is something to consider. The commonality. Is there a similar interest or passion attribute with your offer, what you're mailing, what you're offering, your products and services to a subscriber file that you're looking for? If Golf Digest is a target audience that you want to consider mailing to, what information, what profile or segment of the population do you have in common with that particular subscriber file? So we're looking for a good reason why maybe some of the compiled databases will kind of fall short. The geography, you got to make sure that the geography is large enough to support the mailing. Ideally, your geography wants to be much larger than just the minimum order, because if you have success with this campaign, you want to mail to it again and again and again. What is success? Well, you should look at what the break-even point for a direct mail campaign is for your campaign in order to justify doing it in the first place. And then you'll know, okay, well, if I reach this particular response, this particular number of orders, this particular sign-up, then you know that it makes sense to do it again. These are preparations that you should always do before renting any data, before doing any direct mail, any kind of target marketing. And I've got some different videos that discuss this. Compiled data selects are too broad. Well, oftentimes the compiled data that you use to do a direct mail campaign will capture a segment of the audience based on that criteria, demographically or psychographically, but does it really reach that New Yorker magazine subscriber, that Rolling Stones type personality? So that's when you want to consider a subscriber file, when you really need to hone in on those attributes.